Bienvenidos y bienvenidas una vez más al Digital Uplevel Summit, un espacio creado por Publicis para explorar diferentes temas de la industria tecnológica, de medios y creatividad y así llevar el conocimiento a otro nivel con invitados de talla mundial y presentaciones de nuestros equipos en Argentina, Colombia y Costa Rica. Quiero empezar contándoles que hoy tenemos como invitados a dos mentes expertas en estrategia, Anne Sass y Carlos Gordillo. Anne es estratega con más de 15 años de experiencia invirtiendo y activando medios en todo tipo de mercados. Ella ha trabajado con una amplia gama de clientes de alto perfil como General Motors, Victoria's Secret, Bank of America y Taco Bell. Y Carlos es diseñador y programador web con 7 años de experiencia en marketing, en publicidad digital, desarrollo, ejecución y seguimiento de campañas enfocadas en medios digitales y en e-commerce. Ellos serán los encargados de terminar esta tanda de charlas, no sin antes revelarles el plan perfecto y estratégico para que nunca les digan que no. Así que alisten lápiz y papel para que tomen nota y junto a Anne y Carlos exploremos en este workshop cómo los pilares, la investigación, el conocimiento de la audiencia, la planificación y la inversión será lo más importante para construir un media plan exitoso. Hola Anne y Carlos, un gusto tenerlos con nosotros. Estoy segura que nuestro público está muy emocionado de aprender de dos expertos como ustedes. Bienvenidos.
Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us here. This is the Digital Uplevel Summit, where we're going to be discussing planning. This is brought to you by the Publicis group, and we're going to discuss a little bit planning and see, give you more details about it. There's going to be two parts to this section. It's going to be, I'm going to take you through I would say the whole planning process first, and then Carlos, who's with me, is going to take you then through an exercise via workshop format. And feel free to write any questions that you have. We'll try to answer them as we go. All right, let's get started. Ooh. All right. So the media campaign is actually a 10-step process across 3 different phases. The first phase is strategy and planning. This is where everything starts with the client brief. We get all the information from the client regarding what they need, what they're looking for. Based on the brief, we start doing an audience work. From the audience work, we start mapping a strategy, a recommendation that we will take to the client, and then we get approval for that strategy from the client. That's the end of the strategy and planning phase, and from there we go into the investment/activation phase. Basically, what has been detailed in the strategic portion is then handed down to the investment teams. They go, each channel goes and do the negotiations, buy all the inventory that needs to be bought. We go back to the clients, we get approvals on the buys, and then the campaigns are being trafficked and they're being activated. Well, first activated and then trafficked, right? From that phase, the investment phase, we then go to the operation and analytics phase. As the campaigns are running, as they're on air, everything is being monitored. The campaigns are being optimized. And then at the end of those campaigns, we get the results on the measurements. And that's when we double check that everything has been completed, all the goals have been met, all the KPIs have been met. And then the last piece is just the billing and reconciliations, which is basically just making sure that all the billing that we're receiving, all the invoices match what was negotiated. So this is just a nutshell to see, the entire media process. Moving on to the client brief. The client brief defines the objectives. First, we're talking about the business goals. What are the goals that the client wants to achieve? Is it advanced brand awareness? Do they want to increase sales and build loyalty? Do they want to boost the consumer satisfaction, or do they want to drive acquisitions and sales? Then from the business goal, we move on to the marketing objectives, and that's setting up the KPIs. And KPIs, you have a whole wide array of KPIs. It can be return on investment, ROI, right? It can be sales qualified leads, revenue per customer, traffic, foot traffic into a store, into specific stores. There's a whole conversion rates. There are all kinds of KPIs that, depending on what the business goal is, we would apply as marketing objectives. And then afterwards, we talk about the audience, but we're talking about the audience at that point in a very, very broad term. It can be either like, oh, in general, we think that Gen Xers are our target audience. Just to have an idea, just to have a starting point. From the client brief, then starts the audience work. And the audience work has about like six different phases, if you will. The strategy process includes insight discovery. Insight discovery is really key to have a campaign that will resonate with the people that you're trying to reach. Insight discovery is really, really key. For instance, as an example of an insight discovery, back in 2017, Activia, the yogurt, they launched a campaign called It Starts Inside. And basically that campaign came from the fact that as part of their audience work, they conducted a study that revealed that 80% of women in the US between age 25 and 55, they agreed that they were their worst critic. So with that insight, what Activia ended up doing is they launched a campaign, a series of videos of real women being interviewed in a way or sharing that, yes, what holds them back sometimes is in life is that inner voice that they have inside that is a barrier. But then when they're asked, when they're being challenged and they say, well, we don't think that you can do this, then they have that determination that comes out and they say, well, I'll show you, that I can do it. Or people are like, or the women are like laughing. They're like, no, of course I can do it. I've got this, right? So this was like a great insight and a great campaign, and it worked because Activia ended up providing not only a product, but a platform that helped women feel good inside and out. And that was the whole base of the campaign that said, and it starts inside. And it was all based on that one insight that 80% of the women in that age group, felt they were their own critics. The industry research portion is gathering information about the brand's industry and market environment. So it's looking at everything, all the factors that are external to that industry. It's also looking at the customers, knowing well the customers so that we can develop a customer profile. And it's looking at competitors so that we can develop a competitor profile. Basically, with the industry research, we're looking at any factor that can affect the client's business. It can be business regulations, market demographics, market size and trends, marketing channels, and the sociographics, meaning beliefs and attitudes of people, the interest, lifestyle, etc. Competitive intelligence, I touched that a little bit before. It's all about, understanding who are your competitors within the industry, understanding what their the way that they are talking to their consumers, the way they are interacting with the other brands within that ecosystem, within that industry, and really getting all the information that you can get from your competitors. The consumer trends are also really, really important. Why? Because they change every year. The consumer trends of 2021 are different than the ones from 2020, and they're certainly going to be different from 2022. I recently read an article on Forbes that was talking about the 5 trends that we should watch for 2022, and it was very interesting. Some of the trends that they shared was that, for instance, the consumer journey starts with when do I need it, not where will I buy it. So what they're saying is that now the entry point of the purchase decision tree is no longer where I'm going to buy that product. It's going to be, do I need to buy that product now or should I wait? So that was like an interesting trend, I thought. Another one is sustainability is back, but with a critical eye. So with the whole climate change conversation, sustainability has become really top of mind for many consumers. And so, for instance, when people are thinking about, getting a smaller carbon footprint, what they're thinking is no longer, oh, I'll just get an electric car. They're wondering, do I get an electric car or do I get a hybrid? Same thing for clothes. Now there is this new trend that people are renting clothes, but the question can be, am I better off renting clothes or do I buy them and then recycle them? So there's sustainability is back in top of mind of people but people are critical about it and looking at it from that standpoint. And then the big one is, of course, there are new habits that have been formed because of the pandemic. And some of those habits are here to stay. What am I talking about? It's, for instance, contactless payments, curbside pickup, virtual medicine, open air dining. So many restaurants now or companies are they're refocusing their effort into open air structures, because now people have been used or have been conditioned almost to, if they're going to a restaurant, they're going to meet outside. And in companies now, when they have companies meeting, it has to be in a space that is big enough, airy enough, so that they don't run into those, the pandemic type situation. And what that means is then, if restaurants are refocusing on open air structures, and they need to look at heating system, they need to look at illumination systems. So all this stuff is trickling down. The other effect of the pandemic, if you will, is the shift in priorities that people now have, because they're no longer working in an office, but they have been staying at home. They are with their families. There's a big shift in priorities going from work to now family and lifestyle. And this, of course, will drive new behaviors, new consumer behaviors. And then I would say another, the last consumer trend was that shopping is an always on experience. Basically, what we mean by that is that consumers are now in a constant state of passive shopping. So we might be shopping while we are scrolling Instagram or TikTok, or while we're reading the news, or even while we're on Zoom, right? There's the opportunity is there, and we're home and we're on devices. So those opportunities to shop are there at our fingers and are going to happen a lot more. And then finally, not finally, the consumer journey first, sorry. So there are 5 steps to the consumer journey. And for instance, if you're buying a car, it starts with awareness, right? So you have been exposed to digital ads or ads on TV or social media. You're getting email marketing because you're in the market for a car. So you're getting all this information already that's coming to you. So that's in the awareness stage. Once you absorb all that information, you move to the research stage, right? You want to see which car is going to be the one that fits your needs. So you're going to go on websites, you're going to visit dealerships. And then after you're done with your research and you zero down on the car that you want, you're at the purchase stage. After the purchase stage comes the post-purchase stage. So in the example of a car, you might fill a quality survey or a satisfaction survey. For smaller items, you might return the item or exchange the item. So all these are points of contacts also for the brand to stay in contact with you and get feedback on how they were doing. And then finally, at the end, if everything worked out well and you're happy with your purchase, the brand advocacy stage is the last stage of the consumer journey. And that's where they advocate for the brand. They will recommend what they bought. They'll share a picture of the car on social, so on and so forth. The final stage is target refinement. So the more precise the target is, the more media touch points can be identified. So this is extremely key as well. At the beginning, many years ago in advertising, when when we would get a target demo, it would be, we're targeting women 25-34. And if we got lucky, we would get an income qualifier attached to it, like women 25-34, 75K. Go buy media that will reach that demographic. Luckily, now we have a lot of research, we have a lot of data, so we're taking advantage of all the data that we have at hand. And now we can add social and lifestyle trends to that profile. We can add needs and expectations that person would have, or the attitude towards the brand and its competitors. So, we might now, my women 25-34 with 75K income becomes also a woman who's not really into social media, but she has a high affinity for podcasts. She's sporty. She shows a strong concern for the environment. So with all that information, now I know that social media is not the right place to reach her, but I will target podcasts. I will target any blogs or any website that is sport related or related to the sport that is sport related, and then any kind of content that is related to the environment. Any questions so far? I'm gonna leave it. Okay. Let's move on to the strategic recommendation. So for the strategic recommendation is the next step after having done all that groundwork about the audience. Right now we know exactly who we want to target. We have a full picture of how this person is behaving, what she wants, how she consumes media, which is also very important. And we have identified the media touch points. So from all that information, then our next step is to do a channel selection. So maybe we're gonna do some digital, we're gonna do some video, we're gonna do some print, and we're gonna do some radio. But we still need to figure out how much of each we want to do, right? So the optimization here comes into place. We are building the reach and frequency for the campaigns. We have selected those channels. We have some budgets already in that we're working with, and we have campaign flighting. So we input all that information into a tool that we have for planning. It could be Scenario Planner, it could be TARDIS, and then basically the tool will calculate, will optimize taking into account all those parameters that we're putting into it, and then we'll get back to us with information. Like for instance, the digital is fine and the video is fine, but print is not efficient. The reach that we're getting in print in this specific case for this specific demo doesn't work. So then I would take out print and we would re-optimize and then see if, with the 3 other channels, if that's enough, or should I look at yet a different channel to include. But we're doing that work until we get to the percentage of the multimedia reach that is given by a client. Usually there's like an 80% plus multimedia reach that the client wants, and so we're playing with all the channels until we'll get to that number. And once we have that channel selection and the budgets that correspond to each channel, and we have the campaign flighting, then we go back to the client for alignment, for approval. In digital, usually that strategic recommendation step sometimes is skipped. People go straight into the tactical recommendation, but there is you're taking a risk by doing that, because if you're doing that, you might end up with like questions that will show that you're not in sync with your client. Like, you're recommending TikTok and the client said, no, I wanted LinkedIn. How come I mean, those are 2 very separate platforms, and you want to avoid any kind of disconnect there between your client and the campaign that you're recommending. So here's the tactical recommendation, and basically the tactical recommendation is a much deeper dive on the strategic recommendation. This is where we're talking about the primary KPIs. It could be, drive the consumer to an action, which would probably be, get to the website and actually order an item. The secondary KPI would be to retarget people who visit that website, to drive them back and come back. Maybe if they ended up going to the website first and just looked at an item, maybe put it in the cart but didn't order, they'll get an email saying, hey, you still have your thing, you still have your item in the cart. Here's another 5% off towards your next purchase, which will then bring the consumer back on the website and will give them an incentive to actually order the item. And then there's another optimization that is being done, but this is more, it's a much finite level. This is when we are also really looking into the GRPs, number of GRPs that need to be achieved by channel. We're doing day part selection. Depending on the product that we want to push, does it make more sense to advertise a lot in prime time versus early morning? And then there's the vendor selection. All right. And then I wanted to talk a little bit about online and versus offline planning. And I know that this is a digital up level. But when it comes to planning, often we talk about digital planning and then offline planning. But when you think about it, you might have cases where your planning is 100% online. But at this point in life, we're not going to see a campaign that is 100% offline, right? Unless you're targeting 80 plus, like adults 80 plus, who are really not using digital at all. But there is something to be said about offline, because online and offline offer very different things. So for instance, online, it allows to engage with the consumers. It influences viewers positively through social media, right? We have that capability online to really influence people and drive them to specific website or a specific content. Also, it's a lot easier to expand the business network when we're doing it online. And then finally, there is that interactivity part, like it's much easier to interact with the consumer online and provide them an experience marketing. So something that they get that like a whole experience is brought to them. However, offline, it allows the client or the brand to maintain market position. Why? Like when you're driving outside and you see all the billboards, that's a way to stake a claim, if you will, on your territory, like saying, okay, my store is here, my brand is here. So it's a way of maintaining market position where you are. It also brings weight to campaign to increase sales. So for instance, a lot of people are saying, TV, TV right now is not that relevant, but I mean, TV is still reaching a huge amount of people, it's broadcast, right? So it's a broad demographic. So you're not hurting your campaign by considering offline as well, because it's just going to bring additional weight to the precision that online is bringing. And then also offline is part of the media consumption journey that people have. So when you think about it, digital is great, but people are, like I said before, like if you're driving around, you see the billboards. When you're in your car, you put your radio on, not necessarily Spotify. Not everybody has Spotify, but like, some people will just put the regular radio on. So if you're not including out of home, and if you're not including radio, then you might be missing some of that target that's for you. People are saying that TV to a certain degree is dead, but how many people would rather watch a soccer match live on a big screen versus watching it, from their computer or their tablet on a tiny screen? So these are very relevant media touchpoint that should not be ignored. And that's the reason why I think, just looking at online, depending on what the goal is, could be a mistake. I think it's really important to look at both online and offline, if offline is relevant. And then the other thing that I wanted to bring up is that digital planning works with more precise metrics. Like that has been like the first big advantage that marketers had. Like, you know, the whole point of going to digital is that we have more precise marketing. But right now we need to figure out new ways to target when it comes to digital, because cookies are gone and iOS are gone. So this is changing the landscape of precision marketing for digital. However, I know that there are many companies who are trying to work around it and find solutions, but we need to be aware of that, you know, that landscape of measurements within digital has changed. And then on the offline part, there is that perception now that, yeah, TV is like so broad and you cannot do any kind of precision targeting, but it's actually not true. We've done a lot of progress, if you will, in that regard when it comes to TV. Now we have data-driven linear TV, which is index-based buying. So we're looking at the audience that certain programs are reaching and have like all that sociographics or information that is tied back to the shows. We can also do addressable TV, and we can do programmatic TV, which is audience buying. And then finally, if you're including offline with your online planning, just be aware that, you know, when it comes to offline, you have like a line item for each channel that you're including. So you would have a line item for print, you would have a line item for radio, a line item for video, for instance. But just know that video, actually, you can have a blended approach where you are mixing, because video is not just TV, it's not just linear TV anymore. Video now is TV plus any kind of online video extension. So it can include, you know, you can include social, it can include OTT, CTV, all the viewing that you're doing, let's say on Hulu, but you know, with the Hulu app on your TV, all that can be now included in your, let's say in your CPM or GRP's goals. So just be aware that video now has that blended approach, but everything else is still a line item in your plan. And yeah, don't disregard offline, but online is definitely the way to go nowadays. Any questions? All right, then I'm gonna turn it over to Carlos, who's gonna take you through an exercise. And good luck with that exercise.
Gracias, Ann. Gracias por toda la explicación y gracias a todos por conectarse a este Summit. La idea es que, ya teniendo en cuenta todos los conceptos que nos compartió Ann, podamos pasar a hacer un ejercicio en vivo. Digamos que no podemos extendernos en todo el plan, eso tomaría más tiempo, toda la investigación y todas las etapas que mostró Ann, pero quisiera rápidamente mostrarles cómo podríamos hacer un plan de medios en Internet, digamos que usando herramientas que ya existen y que son de acceso gratuito. Inicialmente, como veíamos en la presentación que nos compartió Ann, el primer paso es tener el brief del cliente. ¿Sí? Este brief del cliente nos define un objetivo de negocio, donde en este brief de ejemplo que vamos a usar es el brand awareness, para una marca que se llama My Career Limited, con unos goals de marketing de tener 1000 usuarios alcanzados con una campaña de lanzamiento. El broad audience son los millennials, el target o una audiencia más pequeña son los young professionals, con un budget de $4,000, enfocado en Colombia y con una duración de un mes, ¿sí? 30 días de duración. Entonces, el segundo paso, como decían, es completar ese journey del consumidor, ese journey del cliente, es conocer en qué etapa nosotros tenemos esos touch points con el cliente o el cliente tiene esos touch points con la marca. Vamos a enfocarnos solo en la parte de awareness basado en lo que vimos en el brief, digamos que es una campaña de awareness, pero como ven acá, cuando uno construye el Consumer Journey, tiene diferentes etapas, ¿sí? Y para cada una de esas etapas va seleccionando unos canales específicos. Para este, digamos que después de haber hecho la investigación, detectamos que el canal específico para el consumidor en esta etapa de awareness es televisión, search y social en la parte digital. Entonces vamos a hacer todo el ejercicio basándonos en los dos canales de digital, en search y social realmente, y usando una herramienta que ya les voy a mostrar. Entonces el primer paso es definir cuál es la audiencia, ¿sí? Digamos que el broad audience puede incluir muchas microaudiencias o muchos clusters dentro de lo que corresponde a esa audiencia, por lo que nosotros hacemos un ejercicio básico de entrar a ver cuál es la persona a la que le vamos a llegar. Dentro de ese análisis lo que hacemos es un análisis demográfico. En este ejemplo, por ejemplo, ven a una persona soltera de 27 años de edad en promedio, género masculino. Lo veíamos y la parte geográfica es importante, está en Colombia, las ciudades principales Bogotá, Cali, Medellín, Bucaramanga y Barranquilla. Tiene unas motivaciones específicas, ¿sí? Cada una de las personas a las que nosotros vamos a impactar con nuestro plan de medio tiene unas motivaciones específicas y el comportamiento en Internet es diferente para cada una de esas audiencias. Vamos a enfocarnos en las búsquedas principales en Internet de este segmento relacionado con lo que queremos en la marca. Una vez tenemos digamos que este análisis de las audiencias, entramos a hacer un análisis del tamaño de cada una de las audiencias, ¿sí? Usamos herramientas como Comscore, como Kantar Media, como Google Ads, Facebook Ads, Nielsen. Todas estas son herramientas que por medio de parámetros que le damos nos va a decir de qué tamaño es nuestra audiencia y cuánta plata necesitaríamos o cuántas personas de esa audiencia podríamos impactar. ¿Listo? Entonces, como les decía, vamos a pasar a usar una herramienta de Google que se llama el Google Keyword Tool. Lo vamos a ver acá. En este momento es una herramienta de acceso gratuito, lo pueden buscar en Google y cualquier persona con una cuenta de Google, Gmail o lo que sea, puede entrar. Entonces, pueden encontrar en Google como el Google Ads Keyword Tool. Es este resultado acá, planificador de palabras clave. Yo no voy a hacer todo el proceso de crear la cuenta, pero de verdad que cualquier persona que tenga la cuenta de Google puede entrar, crear una cuenta de AdWords o de Google Ads y accede a la plataforma, ¿sí? Entonces, este es el planificador de palabras claves y como vimos, cada una de las audiencias tiene unos keywords ya determinados. Entonces, lo que hice fue poner acá los keywords que tenemos y comenzamos con el análisis de las keywords. Esto es solo para los resultados que vamos a tener en Search. Entonces, cada una de estas palabras clave tiene unos promedios de búsqueda. ¿Qué hace esta herramienta? Lo que hace es decirnos qué tanto busca la gente con ciertas condiciones en Colombia las palabras con las que nosotros queremos impactar, ¿sí? Entonces, como es una campaña de awareness, necesitamos enfocarnos en palabras relacionadas con la audiencia, ¿sí? Entonces, lo importante acá es que tengamos muy claro cuáles son los keywords, cuál es el volumen de búsquedas mensuales, que nos va a decir cuántas veces las personas buscan estas palabras en Google y cuál es el costo por clic, ¿sí? El costo por clic es cada vez que alguien hace clic en ese anuncio, cuánto nos cobra, cuánto le cuesta al anunciante. Entonces, ese es el ejercicio inicial. Y como ven acá, ya tenemos los resultados en la presentación. Entonces, teniendo en cuenta el volumen de búsquedas, teniendo en cuenta los costos por cada uno de esos clics, vamos a llevar esta información a un plan de medios, ¿sí? El tercer paso era la estrategia, la recomendación estratégica. Acá es donde incluimos los tamaños de las audiencias y seleccionamos los canales específicos. Puede ser que tengamos canales donde están estas audiencias, pero realmente no valga la pena invertir porque el clúster es muy pequeño o puede ser muy costoso para la marca y no alcanzamos el número de personas que quisiéramos. Entonces, basados en la audiencia, en el ejercicio que vamos teniendo hasta el momento, tenemos los canales de search y en los canales de social, ¿sí? El ejercicio que acabamos de hacer con Google lo deberíamos poder hacer con Facebook, con todos los diferentes canales que van dando esas herramientas para saber el tamaño de la audiencia en cada uno de esos canales. Después de hacer este análisis, pasamos finalmente a la recomendación táctica, ¿sí? Veíamos que el presupuesto total del cliente son $4,000 y es donde empezamos a revisar cuál es el impacto que tenemos en cada uno de esos canales. Nuestra audiencia es la misma, es Young Professionals. El ejercicio que hicimos en Google Search nos da que podemos alcanzar 900,000 búsquedas mensuales en este momento. Nosotros tenemos un cálculo aproximado, que es lo que nos da Google. No quiere decir que el mes siguiente la gente vaya a asegurar ese número de búsquedas. ¿Listo? Con esos 900,000, digamos que con esos 900,000 búsquedas quisiéramos impactar 1,000 usuarios y que el costo para impactar a cada uno de esos usuarios es $2. Entonces, si tenemos un presupuesto de $4,000, podríamos dividirlo en 2 canales, en los diferentes canales, conociendo el tamaño de cada una de estas audiencias. Digamos que para esta audiencia, en el canal de Search, el KPI principal serían las visitas al sitio y tenemos otro KPI de impresiones, donde nuestro objetivo es 2 millones de impresiones, una impresión para mostrar cada uno de los anuncios. El mismo ejercicio en social, donde tenemos 1.4 millones de usuarios potenciales, ese es el tamaño de la audiencia, pero pues por obvias razones, por el presupuesto no vamos a alcanzar a impactar toda la audiencia, así que el reach es un poco más bajo, vamos a impactar solo a 1,000 personas, que es el 0.7% de toda mi audiencia. Esto nos trae que el costo por impacto es de $2, lo que nos costaría en total $2,000. Y lo mismo, el KPI es visitas al sitio, el KPI principal de marketing es visitas al sitio y tenemos otro KPI que es el número de impresiones, que sería, quisiéramos tener un objetivo de 2 millones. Esa es básicamente la forma en la que se hace. No sé si tengan preguntas en este momento sobre el plan. Siéntanse libres de escribirlas en el chat y nosotros las respondemos junto con Ana. Ann, creo que hay una pregunta para ti y es, ¿cómo te imaginas el mundo de media sin las cookies? Nos devolvemos un poco a tu parte, pero pues es una pregunta que nos habían hecho y no habíamos respondido. Entonces, te dejo, Ann, para que la respondas.
Yeah, so there's already platforms that are working for solutions, because obviously that business is 100% reliant on cookies. So there is a lot of conversation. There are a lot of not a lot, but there's some solutions that have been floated around, and I can get back to you on what are the preferred scenarios that have been put forward, but there's a stay tuned. Let me get back to you on this with a little bit more details. But yeah, they're working on ways to work around it.
No sé, creo que no tenemos más preguntas en este momento.
And what I wanted to say is that for now, sorry, I forgot to mention that, but for now, it's not that they don't have anything to work from, right? They're working with the attributes that people are volunteering when they go on a new website. Sometimes they ask for the privacy, what can be shared and not be shared. And right now, there's still a lot of people who are not paying attention to that, so they just accept a wider privacy than is being offered. So that's one way to kind of prolong the time until they find a good solution.
Bueno, creo que entonces no tenemos más preguntas. Los animo a todos a que hagan su primer análisis en Google. Realmente es una herramienta muy fácil de utilizar y les va a dar ideas de palabras clave y sobre los tamaños de audiencias o las búsquedas que necesitan. Entonces, anímense a buscarlo y creo que pues ya está claro cómo pueden entrar y hacer todo el análisis. De verdad que es una herramienta que nos puede servir a todos para en cierto momento entender cuál es el tamaño de las audiencias y qué tanto impacto podríamos tener y cuáles son las keywords correctas. Entonces, anímense.
Y Carlos, hemos pasado un rato increíble con ustedes, ha sido el mejor cierre para este ciclo de media. Con este workshop no podrán decirnos que no y muy posiblemente el match será inmediato. Gracias a todos los que estuvieron conectados con el Digital Uplevel Summit durante todas las charlas de media. Ha sido un gusto acompañarlos en este recorrido de conocimiento y exploración para llevar los temas a otro nivel. Quiero contarles que este espacio creado por Publicis también es una oportunidad para ustedes, pues queremos que sean parte de nuestro gran equipo y que apliquen a todas las posiciones disponibles. Pueden conocerlas en careers.byprodigious.com. Aún nos queda mucho de qué hablar, sigan conectados con la conversación que cada vez se pone más buena y recuerden que para asistir a las siguientes charlas solo deben registrarse en uplevel.byprodigious.com. Allí encontrarán los temas, las fechas, la hora de cada charla, así que prográmense. Gracias y nos vemos en la siguiente conversación.